I'm Lieutenant Tracy Simon. I work for the Orange County Sheriff's Department. On April 18th, 1997, I was working for the Barrytown Police Department. I was on my way home from work at about 3:30 in the afternoon when my life changed forever. I was southbound on Route 110 when I noticed a car headed northbound on Route 110. Just prior to getting into a very sharp corner, there was a vehicle ahead of me and there were some vehicles in the line behind me. I noticed that this vehicle was coming north at a very high rate of speed, and I thought to myself, if this guy doesn't slow down, he's not going to make it around the corner. We started around the corner. I lost sight of the northbound vehicle, and the next sight that I had of that vehicle was of the operator putting the passenger side wheels of the vehicle off the pavement, overcorrecting, and heading into my lane of traffic in a side skid. I never made it home for 21 days. His passenger side front fender collided with my driver's side front fender. My vehicle was stopped in its forward motion, pushed 10 feet in reverse, came to an uncontrolled position of rest in the ditch. I had an estimated speed of about 35 miles an hour, and I estimated his speed to be about 62 miles an hour.
And Scott said something that most 15-year-olds don't say in public. He looked at me and he said, "Mom, I love you so much. It means so much to me. Thank you." And I threw him the keys. And those are the last words I remember my son saying to me. On the other side of town, a young girl, 17 years old, had skipped school because her boyfriend had broken up with her. And she'd talked someone into buying her a fifth of vodka and proceeded to drink it. When she pulled out of her parking lot to go home, across the street was a Hannaford's, and someone pulled out of Hannaford's right behind her and said that immediately they could tell she was drunk, and they called 911 and followed her for 4 miles through Burlington as she almost hit several cars. She missed several telephone poles, and the woman said she was pleading with 911 to hurry and get to her before she killed someone. She said she was very thankful when they stopped at a stoplight, and she thought for sure the police were going to make it to her. Then the light turned green, and the girl in the car that was driving drunk sped from 0 to 60, and at the last minute veered in front of our car and hit us head on.
My name is James Fleshman. I was struck by a drunk driver in July of 1994 by walking down the road in Shasbury, Vermont. I was walking down the road and he got struck by a drunk driver, and he took off and left me there. They found the guy coming the other way had saw me laying there and taken me to a hospital. And I went to Southwest Hospital, and there they got me halfway decent and transported me to Albany Medical Center by helicopter. And there I was in a coma for 3 weeks.
It was October 1st. It was very early in the morning. We had a house in West Chesterfield, and we had a stone driveway, and there was a car coming down our driveway, and you could hear the stones popping from under the tires of the car coming into the driveway. And I could hear the footsteps walking across our deck and knocking on then there was a knock on the door. And my cat growled. My husband got up, went to the door. I heard some people talking, and my husband came back and he said, "There's a police officer at the door. Something's happened with Deirdre." I got up, and I was thinking that she had gotten herself in trouble. And found out that I went to the door, and it was a police officer that lives up the road from us. And it was really dark, and he was like glowing. It was very strange. And he looked at me and he said, "There's been a crash, and Deirdre's dead."
My name's Andrea Varney, and on April 17, 1998, I was the passenger in a car that was hit head-on by a drunk driver. My husband and I had just moved to Vermont. We had been doing infertility treatments for about 4 years in Boston, and we had just gotten word that morning that we were going to have the opportunity to have one last try. We'd gone out to dinner to celebrate that we might be able to create a new life, and ended up the evening praying that my life would not be lost. After dinner, we started back home, and I walked into a convenience store to get some cough drops because I had a cold. And then I went back in the car and I lay down, reclined. And that was the last time I was able to walk without any assistance, any medical equipment, and without a limp. About 10 minutes from home, we were hit head-on at full speed.
She said it took them almost an hour to get him out of the car with the jaws of life. But when they took him out of the car and they put him in the ambulance, she said he was smiling and he waved and said, "Mom, we'll see you at the hospital." The EMT tells me that when they closed the doors to the ambulance, Scott died instantly. He died from what they called a deceleration injury. He had a burst aorta among all the other injuries that he had. He'd broken both legs, both hips. His pelvis was crushed. He'd broken all of his ribs, his clavicle, and his sternum. I had most of the same injuries, except that my aorta was torn instead of burst.